Good afternoon and welcome to the January 15th, 2025 Akron Public Schools meeting of the Instructional Policy Committee. I am Diana Autry, I'm your chair. Summer Hall is your co-chair here. And at this time, we will turn it over to our administrative person, Dr. Caver. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. We have a few presentations for you today. And so first, for our first meeting, we do have our minutes from November 18th, so the committee can review those minutes at your leisure. Our agenda items for today are, we're going to start with the Career Tech report card. So we have Marcy Ebright and Nate Roring here today to present to us our information. And then we're going to, our second presentation will be another College and Career Academy topic from Marcy and Nate. And then we will end with an update from Joanne Isaac from our communications department on the strategic plan. So I'm going to turn it over to Marcy.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't think I need the clicker.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. Each year, we receive, much like we do with our state ODEW report card that shows off academic achievement of students across our district. At the same time, we receive what's called a Career Technical Planning District report card. So those are released as well, and it gauges how well we are preparing students for post-secondary success. And since we are a College and Career Academy district, as you're aware, that means almost every single one of our graduating students are represented in this data. So I'm going to show you where we were in the previous report card and the current report card, and sort of explain the different components and where we think we're going in our next phases. So the accountability comes here with our state accountability and federal accountability. And these report cards look to see how we are strengthening those connections between our high school students and their post-graduation plans, and how we're improving academic performance. The accountability takes place over several indicators, which I'm going to walk you through, but it can be from different classes. So sometimes the data is coming from the class of 2023 and the class of 2024. Sometimes we include data from concentrators and non-concentrators. Are you familiar with what the term concentrator means? Okay. So every student in APS who graduates who has taken at least 2 CTE courses becomes a concentrator. So they become part of the numerator and the data that we're looking for across all of these. This graduating class of 2024 had 1,118 concentrators. I think we graduated 1,254, somewhere around there. So thank you for because I know you just said it last night. So we always have a population of students who may not have fallen into that concentrator category, because you will see students like at early college, most of their classes are taken through the university, or you'll see students that come back to us as seniors who don't get the chance to take at least 2 CTE courses. But at this point, since we're wall-to-wall college and career academies, all of our students are getting through, most of our students, I want to say, are getting through at least 2 courses in CTE. The way that they evaluate us is much like you see on our state report card. It is a 5-star rating, going from 1 in a category that says that we need significant support to improve, up to 5, meaning that we are significantly exceeding expectations in that area. They rank us on 5 different categories, one of which is graduation. So how well did our concentrators graduate, at what rate in that cohort? How well are our concentrators achieving on their technical skill attainment and their academic attainment? How well are students demonstrating competencies for post-secondary readiness? And then we also look at post-program outcomes. Those are 6 months after graduation. We see how students are doing. Are they working? Are they employed? Are they going to school? What's happening with them 6 months after graduation? So each year we get evaluated equally. They're weighted 25% of the report card across the board. So we'll start with the first one. We're going to start with graduation rate for our CTE concentrators. And the screen that you're looking at, the green box to the right is our most recent reporting. So when we look at the kids who have been with us and are in that cohort of graduates, we graduate 91.4% of them graduated on time in their 4-year cohort, which is slightly above. We're about 88%, if you remember our most overall graduation cohort. And they're getting very close in numbers because the numbers are very close, correct? So we see that increase, another about 0.8% increase there. We had a little bit of dip in our 5-year graduation cohort, but overall, when they weight those for us, and we got a 4-star rating. So we went from 3.7 points last year to a 4-star rating this year. We expect with the numbers that we're looking at, because this data is always a year behind, so we kind of know our previous 4- and 5-year rating. And when we've looked at those numbers, we expect our next year's rating for this report card piece to be 5 stars. So fantastic. Yes, it's very good stuff. One of the major reasons when you look at college and career academies and having kids involved in this type of meaningful coursework, and the driving factors for that was because of the outcomes we always have had for students taking CTE courses, that meaningful connection, business connection, embedded in careers and fields of interest. So when all students are doing this, we're seeing those outcomes not only for our CTE graduation rate, but also for our general graduation rate. Yep.
When we talk about years, so the 3.7, was that the school year of 2022 to 2023?
This would be the graduation class of 2023. So it lags a year
3.7 was
behind. So
okay.
we know, yeah. And then the class of 2022 made up the 5-year graduation rate. So it would depend on, how many students were in that cohort and the percentage. So sometimes I'm not so worried about the change there because it depends on the number of students that actually had to go into 5 years.
So this year right here, the 91.4 was 2023?
Correct.
And then the 92.9 was 2024?
Correct.
Okay.
So how many
you.
students needed the extra year to
Yeah.
graduate? It jumps up to 92.9%. Is how you can read that.
Oh, okay, so everyone is included, even the ones
Yes.
you said that need an
Yeah.
extra year. So does this also include such as like AAA?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Correct.
Wonderful, thank you.
So a concentrator who went to AAA needed an extra year, then they become part of the 5-year cohort. That's correct. Mhm. So, and just as a reminder, just so that I just mentioned that comparison to our overall rate and how we're showing that improvement in our 4-year graduation rate as a district. And I'd like to thank, if you remember that article that came out for our 4-year graduation rate of our state accountability and the overall report card, that we are outperforming every large urban in the district in our graduation rate. Yes.
Overall.
Don't forget that.
Overall.
So it all comes together. They all, all of that work comes together. So the second area that we are evaluated on is the achievement category. This comes out of 2 pieces. Our students are tested in every one of their CTE classes on with a test called the web exam. That is a state proficiency test, much like your OST. And every course has that test given to students. And we also have a portion of this evaluation is new, in which they look at how well our concentrators are performing in their academics. So how well did they do on their math, science, social studies, and reading as well. So looking at these scores, 80% of this evaluation comes from how well students are doing on their technical skill attainment. We jumped up 7.7 percentage points. The threshold threshold for proficiency here is 70%. So we are this close to making that marker of students showing their technical skill proficiency. Mr. Nate next to me does a fantastic job working with the teachers and identifying students and where they need to take retests, where we can have strategies in place to build that capacity up. And we saw a slight boost in the students for how well they're doing on their proficiency tests as well. So our goal this year is to hit that 70%, to increase our performance index as well on their general testing. We believe we're going to hit both of those scores, and if we do, we're going to jump from a 2-star to a 3-star in achievement for our CTE concentrators. The third item that we are evaluated on is how well students are prepared for career and post-secondary. This is a variety of indicators in which they measure students off of. We jumped from 84.6% on the previous report card to a whopping 107.2% for the greatest, the highest score we could get of 5 stars, which means we are significantly exceeding how well we are preparing kids for post-secondary life. And you're reading that score right. When I first saw it, I was like, how in the world did we get 107 percentage points here? So I'm going to show you that. We get a point for different items. There's 1,118 kids in this cohort that they counted. So every time a student does any of these items here, they're remediation free on their ACT, they earned an honors diploma, they got 12 or more industry credentials earned before graduation, or they had the military seal, did the military piece, they get a point in our numerator out of that denominator. Then the state says, well, we know kids do multiple things to show readiness, so we give you some bonus points. So if any of those students who got a point in the numerator also did an internship, a pre-apprenticeship, service learning, work-based learning, earned their OMJ seal, we get a 0.33 bonus. So a student could count for 1.33 points. So another way that they can also get points, we get increments of points. So maybe they didn't get one of those 4 items to get them in the numerator, but they did get their web exam proficiency. So they had a 70% or better average on all their web exams. Or they were in a CTSO. So we get 0.33 bonus points for any time they do some of those things too, up to 1.33 for that student. So the state does all that calculation every single year. We send in all this data on all of our students and all of their achievement and all of those pieces. So when you see those kids coming through who are doing all those DECA programs and participating in those kids are counting towards these points in here. So we work to expand those programs, make sure that they have those, and so forth. So when they add all of those up, and I know this is a little hard to see, but if you look from the left to the right, again, there's that 107% out of the graduation cohort of concentrators of 1,118. We earned 1,198 points because they take all those calculations for us, put them all together, and when they divided it out, that's how we got the 107%. And we certainly expect to even see this go higher next year because we're doing a lot of work around pre-apprenticeships for students. We'll have students graduating there. We know that we have more students earning WBL hours because of all the expansion work that we've been doing. So I did highlight where we saw the biggest point gain, and that was in the number of students who increased from 412 to 674 students who had at least one of the indicators, and of them, 588 did a second indicator. So that's where we got extra points as well. So this was a huge win, got us the 5 stars in this rating, so we expect to maintain that score moving forward. Thank you very much. Thank you. Another thing that we report on are outcomes after high school graduation. This is not something that is graded on us, but it does let us see some college-ready post long-term impact. Remember, College and Career Academies started wall-to-wall 2018. So keep that in mind as we're looking at this, because you're looking at outcomes college graduation ready pieces. So how many students after high school were entered into college within 2 years? So last year's reporting for the class of 2020 which are kids that would have been 2 years in college and career academies, right? They didn't go through the whole 4, 6, and now 12 years of college career academies. They only had 2. They were at 32%. The graduating class of 2021 is now at 39.8% of those kids reporting that they were enrolled in a post-secondary institution. The class of 2016, they go all the way back there to see how many of them finished within 6 years after leaving high school. We jumped from 9.3% to 14.8% in those 2 classes. So we're seeing the trends increase of not only of kids enrolling in post-secondary education, but also finishing post-secondary education. So this is just reported out. It's not something we're graded on. They do the clearinghouse data, and they let us know how our students are doing post-secondary. Okay, so that's good news. And then the final area that we are evaluated on of the 4 areas are post-program outcomes. In this instance is the class of 2023. This class 2023 graduating class, because we just finished the class of 2024. We reach out to every single concentrator and say, what are you doing? Are you working? Are you going to school? Are you employed? Are you in the military? Are you planning to get something? We've actually added in, do you need help with something? That was another phase, because sometimes we would get kids say, I'm not doing anything. So we started to follow up there. It's a massive undertaking, but we jumped from out of those concentrators that we followed up in the 2 graduation cohorts, 86% to 90%. That 90.7% recognizes that we were able to identify 90.7% of that class. We were able to find them and talk to them and find out what they were doing. And then, I'm sorry, take that back. 93%, the status known rate at the bottom. 93% of them we were able to find. We do know that this most recent one we completed, we believe we hit, what was it? 97%. So, which is good, because when you get 95% or better, you get a star jump. So we were really excited to get the star jump this year. So we'll see that reflected on next year's report card. So 93.2% of the kids we found, and of them, 90.7 reported that they were in one of their E's. So that's how you read that chart. So we see the trending up of finding, a little bit more kids, but also more kids reporting that they are either employed, enlisted, or enrolled someplace. Okay? Those scores gave us 4 stars on this most recent report card, and we believe that with the hitting 95% or better this year, and the results that we have, that we will have 5 stars on this next year. That's our goal. So you see, we're trying to increase them. So we're 5, 5, 5s, and 3s. So overall, we went from a 3.5 meeting state standards in our Career Technical Planning District report card to a 4-star district exceeding state standards. Yay! And all those sub-goals that I mentioned along the way that we believe we're going to hit, so if we hit all of them, the calculations show that we will be a 4.5 star, which is significantly exceeding state standards for how we're preparing kids in their career technical education. So we're very excited about this result and the direction in which we're heading for all of that. Our federal report card, not super amount of changes. We also have to submit, we are a federally funded Perkins funding district, so they look at how we're completed across these indicators listed on the screen. A lot of the very similar things that you just saw. We saw some increases across them. We still met 5 out of 9 indicators. An area of focus for us, of course, is how they look at how well our students are doing in academic proficiency as well. So we're paying attention to that and strategies of how we're making sure that our students, SCTE concentrators in our classrooms, are doing with their reading, math, and science proficiency as well. And we believe we'll see our work-based learning also jumping up. This is actually 2 years behind, so we know that we've made gains across that data as well. And we expect that we'll see that jump to 15% soon and add another federal indicator to the positive buckets with all the work that we've been doing. Oops, I'm sorry.
So can you go back to that? Mm-hmm. So with some of these proficiencies, I know that a few months when we did the adoption of the new curriculum, the science, the it was mostly science, and I think it was some math, the adoption of that new curriculum. And I'm interested to know, like, with some of these curriculums, how we will see some improvement in the areas of our science, because it was a lot of hands-on, project-based learning. You know, you guys did a wonderful presentation. People can go back and look at it to make the connections. And then for us to be able to make that correlation to those improvements, I'm also in agreement with you with the participation in work-based learning for those CTEs. That's why those relationships and those kids that are in those programs are connected with industry as much as possible, and that's why I'm really on that. So this is good, and I'm thankful for this. But what I would like to see, that when you say we expect it to move by 15%, is the action steps for that and then the outcomes. So we implement it or make a correlation with the curriculum that we purchase and then the upticks in our science grades or mathematics, so that it tells like just a clean, streamlined story to what's happening and how decisions made from you all in this committee help to make those gains. It gives a clearer picture, because I've been here now, this is my 4th year, and I can say, in my opinion, I've seen the questions that I started off asking, I'm not having to ask anymore. Like, I see that you implement it, that you're doing the work, that it's applying, and just so everyone sees the story. I just happen to been in this seat, so up close and interacting with you all, that when we show those connections, it adds value and it makes sense that the decisions that Instructional Policy Committee are making a difference, and this is why. So when you talk about the 15% jump, okay, why did that happen? What did we do that resulted in that? If, you know, when you guys get that information to inform the committee. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I know Dr. Kaver's been doing a fantastic job as we've been talking through how we're improving those connections between the real-world experiences that we're giving them and the academic outcomes. And so I'm very optimistic about the direction those things are going. Great. That's it. So with all that said, I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Rurian here, because one of the strategies that we're looking for those real experiences for students, and wanted you to hear about this before it's sent to board for your approval. I believe it's on the February meeting. So I'm going to let Nate take over from here, explain this next piece to you.
It may be on the January 27th meeting, since a lot of things were already voted on at the CAL. So just a heads up, so that this may be on that one. So he's doing yes, we're going to do a very short presentation on the item that'll be on there that we're seeking approval for. Okay?
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Nathan. I'm the coordinator of Career Tech for Akron Public Schools. And we're really excited to present this sterile processing certification program to the board at an upcoming meeting. Ultimately, we do believe that this program will support the mission and vision of Akron Public Schools by ensuring our scholars are college and career and life ready through earning this industry standard certification. It does meet the vision of Akron Public Schools to ensure our graduates are architects of their future and are able to gain meaningful employment upon graduation. This program does align with Cornerstone 2 and our commitment to high-quality academic achievement. So what is sterile processing? Has anybody ever heard of sterile processing?
Our nurse has.
She sure has. She has. So sterile processing is the process of cleaning, disinfecting, sterilizing, and preparing medical instruments and equipment for use in a healthcare setting. The goal is to ensure all tools are free from contamination, and it is an unequivocal, critical function for infection control in hospitals and surgical centers. The sterile processing certification is required for employment as a sterile processing technician. It is an Ohio Department of Education and Workforce 12-point industry certification and will count towards graduation through a demonstration of competency. It is in high demand in Northeastern Ohio and Akron for entry-level employment. It does also require formal training and the passage of an exam through a certified testing center. Our hope through the approval of this agreement is to establish a formal partnership with the University of Akron to become Akron would become a preferred training partner with the University of Akron. The goal is for the University of Akron to train our healthcare pathway instructors on sterile processing, and in turn, our pathway instructors will train the students and make sure they're prepared for the exam. The University of Akron is prepared to provide their curriculum for a fee of $2,000 per cohort, and the University of Akron will also share their sterile processing supplies and materials for a cost of $125 per participant. It does also require the purchase of a classroom set of textbooks, which we estimated about $4,000 per pathway, and we do plan to keep those books in perpetuity. As a part of this agreement, Akron schools would agree to share a list of participating students with the University of Akron. In turn, the University of Akron will provide students with an official certificate of completion, and the University of Akron will maintain a permanent transcript of the course completion for the students. In APS, we are responsible for scheduling and paying for the certification exam. And because the certification is approved by the Ohio Department of Education, we are eligible for reimbursement for that cost of $128. And the goal is to remove the need for our students to go to the University of Akron for this training. We will basically do it in-house with their sponsorship and support, because they have built an outstanding sterile processing program at the university, and we simply just don't have the capacity to send all of our students there, so why not do it in-house? So everyone has received a copy of the memorandum. The date of the memorandum going into effect is just an example. We will revise that date accordingly once it has been approved by the board. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions?
Sure.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. I was supposed to say thank you, Madam President. Still my president, but thank you, my friend. All right, so my question is, so where we have the nursing pathways like Garfield and the medical pathways at North, is it, because like as Marcy was saying, how kids are getting multiple of these credentials, do we see, whereas if I'm in nursing, that I can just add this up easily where it will just be, if you're in a medical pathway, this is added, just period, so that you would get this certification? Does it make?
It does, to make it like an organic part of the
like it's
experience.
naturally, if you're in a medical pathway, then you're going to get this because we'll do this unit, and then the next unit is the sterilization. I don't remember the other word, but you got it.
That is the goal. It's my understanding, and Mrs. Autry can confirm or deny this, that this is a high demand occupation. We were approached by a high level person from a hospital about the need for this, and it just so happened we had a person who had a contact at U of A with this program, and we reached out and were able to really put this together, and I'm very grateful for the University of Akron to support us in this. So we're estimating about 50 hours of instruction.
Okay.
Our 10th grade course is 135 hours of total instruction, 11th grade is 135, and then our seniors we see for 270 hours. So we have confirmed with all of our healthcare instructors that this aligns to their courses and their programs, and they feel like this is a great opportunity and a good fit. We also have the option to maybe embed this as a summer opportunity as well. So
I love this whole conversation. I love the collaboration, and I love that it can fit into our school buildings during the regular course work if they're on this pathway. And the reason being because the incidents that we run into with summer learning, right? With our older groups. It's one thing when it's younger because they can, get dropped off when it's summer programming, but just like with the cosmetology situation, sometimes the scheduling with their work schedules and things like that, school is already part of your schedule. So usually you build your work schedule around your school schedule. So to offer it maybe as an option would be cool, but I love the first thing that you stated about making it organically a part of the class and understanding the hours that come with that so that it can be broken up as units because it makes it more seamless. So this is the type of things that I know are fantastic because it's getting them career ready in the medical field where they can earn a reasonable salary and really take care of themselves and be contributing citizens not only to the city but to their households because a lot of our kids, that's the deal. So I'm sorry, I just get excited about because it makes sense. It flows naturally and it makes so much sense and it's practical, right? Like you're already in medical. You're doing medical at Garfield. You're at North. Now this is a unit. It will flow. It doesn't have to be static. Like it's a natural flow. So I love it. Thank you guys.
Member Hall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With the partnerships with the hospitals and these different programs, do they offer what is it called? Not really volunteer. Students need volunteer hours. It's still the same from back when I was in school. Such as like candy striping and things like that. Do the hospitals offer that to our kids? Because if they're learning these skills, they have the nursing programs. Being actually in the hospital, getting your volunteer hours as a candy striper opens doors to all of this hands-on experience. I know when I was a candy striper, I delivered like blood specimens or urine specimens to the different labs, equipment, things that were in like the red tubs that I'm like, but it was an experience. Going to all the different departments in the hospital that all like opened my eyes to, kind of what I wanted to be when I grew up, right, which was a doctor, but things changed in life. But with those opportunities of learning what else is involved in a hospital or knowing what's on different floors versus just going to your actual doctor's appointment, now if I'm doing this process, I can go to the hospital and actually see what they're doing or watching a surgery from upstairs and seeing how they utilize the medical tools and then where they put them to then be sterilized next. So I don't know if we can open some of those partnerships with a hospital. And it's not much, just going to see what's happening or getting volunteer hours as a candy striper. I think that would be a great complement to what we're already doing. So not to give you too much more work. But.
Thank you. Akron Children's Hospital is a named Academy partner for up at North High School. We have several healthcare industries that are working with our students and doing a lot of what you're saying. One of the College and Career Academy's transformational tenets is that they're also working with our teachers, right? So they work closely with our teachers to help design, keep them current, so they know what's needed. Working in those lab spaces, the WBL hours we spoke to is also a really great opportunity because we can get kids out into paid internships, paid experiences in the summer, after school, during the school day, where they're taking advantage of those. And we also do healthcare industry sector experiences that happen for all of those students that are interested. So there's a lot of what you're saying is going on. Some of our challenge, of course, the time to get kids out into those things because they have classes during the day. They have to go to math and science and social studies. So we tap a lot of it in the summer and evening hours, some release time for them to go out and have those experiences as well. But making sure that those partners are actually coming into the classrooms and running labs and simulations with the students as much as they can. Healthcare gets a little funky because we get into a lot of HIPAA laws. And so sometimes we think we got these really great ideas and you really can't, have a 17-year-old looking at medical charts. So we come up with other simulations that they can work through in that realm. But, absolutely, we're always looking for people to come in and work with our kids and become a partner with us in this work, too. Thank you.
One more thing. I noticed with North High School, I think it's on the third floor, they actually have like a doctor's office with the chair and everything.
Yes.
And what I would like in the future, how we have, with our automobiles and things like that, people can go get their cars worked on by our students. I would love the opportunity for someone to be able to go to North High School and have the kids take their blood pressure, or their temperature. Simple things like that. We have a lot of doctors that do, you can call on the phone, and they ask your symptoms and things like that. Sometimes you don't know, you just don't feel good. But if we could go into the schools and say, can someone take my blood pressure? Or check my heart. It's really easy to be trained. Of course, Diana knows, but, to listen to someone's heartbeats, and you hear that little click. When you're listening, you know what it is over whatever it is. But I think I'm hoping in the near future that we can actually utilize that room, not just student to student, but student to community to help out. Because it's nothing like hands-on experience and really engaging and then saying, I think this is what I want to do because someone let me take their temperature or their blood pressure or something like that. So to have that beautiful space and not to really utilize it.
Yeah, I agree. I love that idea. Thank you.
Do you have another question? Yes, Madam President.
Because Summer doing all that talking got my mind over here turning. I think that you already talked about the practicum. Like a practicum is what you're explaining, the real life experience in education is, when you go into the classroom and you're actually teaching learners or doing student teaching. But I say all that I think that's a great idea because we do it with cosmetology. Usually we take clients can come in when the students get to a certain age. And then with the blood pressure, just to reiterate what Summer is saying, it is a great idea. And if you put it in a schedule like doing like Heart Health Month, because my sorority, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, we do things like that. And where you could come and get your blood pressure checked, see a nurse. And I actually, very serious though, when she was saying that, when Summer was talking about that, and it's like, someone may say, it's temperature, okay, and blood pressure. But no, it's very serious because when students know what to look for and then to say, you may need to get to a hospital. I was at an event one time recently, one of my illnesses when I was out, that I had my blood pressure was so high at an event that when they took it, I just had them take it thinking, it's having fun, that they thought I should be taken out of there by an ambulance. And so I would have never known. Like, it was at stroke levels, but I was walking around normally. And just because these nurses was at this event that was hosted by my sorority, I knew that I needed to go see a doctor immediately, and they didn't want me to leave. So for a child to be able to do that and feel a sense of significance and accomplishment with that is great. But the reason why I really had my question was Summer had asked, had asked about the candy striping thing. And then you talked about paid internships, which I think is great. And then you mentioned something with some letters about opportunities. And I just wanted, is that where they observed? It was something you talked about the paid internships, which I think is cool. Summer was talking about volunteering, which can be separate because there's separate scholarships for volunteering. It's also networking opportunities that come when you're physically in a hospital, and a doctor or someone can see your work ethic. A grant may come available. They may inquire about. It's just that face-to-face interactions. But so I think it's still good to consider, like, is candy striping an option? What does that look like? Those type of volunteer opportunities actually in a hospital, because it's one thing for people to come into your building and run modules. It's another thing when you see it in real time, when you're making deliveries, as Summer was explaining. So I didn't hear the answer, like, is this something that we can do? One, and I wanted to write down the other example you said that I can't, because it was some letters, because you said they get paid internships.
Are you thinking
they
of
come in,
WBL? Or is that,
yes.
Yeah, so work-based learning opportunities.
Oh, it's still like a paid
so that's our partnership that we have with Jobs and Family Services through the JOG department, right, that works with our students, and they hire them through JOG. And you all have been generous enough to help support sort of funding this. JOG will fund students who meet a sort of income criteria and the poverty guidelines. We've also added in OOD services to try to model the same thing that we've been doing with JOG, because they have a pot of money to help support students with job training opportunities. space. So we're piloting that right now. They've always worked with our students, but we're trying to do it more sustainably. So they're working over at Garfield now. They actually have an office space where they're meeting with students and families to make sure that that population of students can have access to those opportunities. And then we also have a bucket of money that we, for the kids who don't meet any of those qualifications, who still want to do work-based learning, that we're able to pay them. We've done those in micro experiences this year. So a student signs up for a 40-hour micro experience, and then they're placed in that experience. And it's just a small bite. You know, I'm not committing the next couple of years of work, but I can get a small bite and experience, and then they get paid a stipend at the conclusion of that. I forget what the total was, but it averages out to about. It's about $15 an hour, no matter which way that they're going. So we've grown that program substantially the last year and a half, but that partnership with JOG and the investment that we've been making here and grant funding that we've put through it, the city of Akron has contributed to that fund for our students too. So we've had a great success. 3 years ago when we tried it on our own, we got 30 kids through. Last summer, we got 380 kids through. So it's been growing like crazy. The work with Youth Success Summit has been instrumental in helping organize some of those funding sources as well. So we work closely with them on all that design process. But that's part of it. But we do paid and unpaid internships, right? So our College and Career Academy partners are the people that help design the internships. Our academy coaches that are in the buildings help field all those conversations and make sure that students have those opportunities.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I appreciate this opportunity being brought forth. Often people just think of doctors and nurses when it comes to healthcare. So to have another healthcare career opportunity for our students, I think is great. I mean, especially for introverts, people like me, because this is a career that you don't have to be this big outgoing person to do it. So I appreciate that. I do recall we used to provide health or hearing and vision screenings. And I remember I used to volunteer through my job at Akron Children's. We would allow the nursing students to assist with that. So I know we used to do that. I've not been in the buildings in that way in a long time. But Children's Hospital trained the nursing students on the equipment, clean the equipment, and did the actual vision and hearing screening. So that's an opportunity for some hands-on things. If it's available still, I don't know. But thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we have one last agenda item for today. So I am going to turn it over, and thank you for all of the comments and the feedback that we will take into consideration, see what we can do for next steps. Thank you to our CCA team. But we're going to turn it over now to Joanne Isaac, our Assistant Communications Director.
Hello. Well, I am super excited to be able to talk to you about the Year 2 Blueprint for Excellence, our strategic plan. And before I go into it, obviously I have to acknowledge the role of our board. You align the resources, look at the policies, you're our champion for this, so we appreciate you. It's really not just a strategic plan, it's really a commitment that we all put together, and a lot of people went into creating this. You each have a copy in front of you. If you remember the last year, this is what last year's looked like. I am just going to talk to you a little bit about the booklet, take you through it a little bit, and then I'm going to talk to you about the reporting and execution process and the updates and how we update throughout the year. So if you turn to the very first page on the inside, obviously everything that we do is based on our mission and our vision to ensure all APS scholars are college, career, and life ready by providing innovative educational experiences. And of course, our vision, the vision we want for our scholars is that they will graduate as architects of their future, prepared to thrive in an ever-changing world. So these two commitments drove what was in our Year 2 strategic plan. So if you look Page 2 and 3, obviously, I'm not going to go over everything, but 2 and 3. If you look at the table of contents, a lot of this is similar that you would have seen in year 1. Dr. Robinson has a new message in there because obviously year 2, he's going to talk a little bit about how we got there, what we did, and what the future is going to look like in the second year of this plan. The stakeholders are going to be the same. You're going to see our coherence framework. A lot of the things you see on our slides, every time somebody presents with you, you're going to see that none of that has changed. So what I'm going to be talking to you really about are the cornerstones 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is where you're going to see the bulk of the changes or updates that were made, and also the implementation and reporting. So if you turn to page 10, as you know, when the year 1 of the strategic plan was created, the 4 cornerstones were really our commitments to the community and to our stakeholders of what we were committed through this strategic plan. Obviously, those have not changed. If you go over to page 11, each cornerstone has objectives, initiatives, and actions and strategies. That's the same as year 1. What's changed is throughout year 1, there were feedback sessions. There were opportunities for people to come in and reflect. There were, our team pulled KPI and data to align with each one of those objectives and see where tweaks needed to be made. And so all of that was really a year-long work of gathering and collecting that feedback and really making sure that we adhered to those commitments that we gave and also stuck to those objectives. You really aren't going to see that the objectives changed a lot because obviously it's a 5-year plan, so it's not an objective that there really was any, there really weren't any that were going to be done in a year. Most of them were larger objectives. You may see some little changes. One may have moved to another area. As the teams met and we got feedback from the community and our families and even our scholars, because our scholars were part of this as well, we just felt like sometimes they were a better fit in other cornerstone areas, or when we were looking at the KPIs and the data, there was enough of an overlap that we felt that we could put it in one place. So if you look at page 11, it's Cornerstone 1, Culture of Safety Belonging. Again, the initiatives and the actions and strategies are evolving. Some of them may change. Some of them may have been accomplished, and now maybe there's a new initiative to push that objective further into 100% completion. If you turn to page 13, this one is going to be new. So last year, in year 1, we had our 5-year matrix, all of the objectives listed. We had a source of where we were getting our data. So where are we pulling the data that's going to tell us that we're getting the results that we wanted or guide the decisions that we were making? And we also had a baseline. If you look at the way bottom at the key, there's a little star or the asterisk. There were a lot of those asterisks last year because some of the initiatives were brand new and fresh, and we didn't have baseline data. That was part of year 1. So you're going to see on this one, you see that we have our baseline data, we have what we projected to be, and that what the actual our actual data was for 20. Oh, sorry about that. There, do you need another one? Yeah, that's what I was going. Here's one more. And so with the actual data, we also have in this year 2 a projection for next year. So based on our objective, what the actual data and KPIs showed, the teams made a projection for what they wanted that to be for next year. And if you just flip through the next couple pages, you'll see Cornerstone 2 follows that same layout, the objectives, the initiatives, and the data that's on there, and it also is in 3 and in 4. What I really want to emphasize is, of course, this is a living document. It's adapting, evolving. So if there's something like, wait a minute, this may not have been there. It may look different. It may be in a different location that I mentioned earlier. But it also could have been tweaked a little bit, because what we're doing isn't following something that got written down. We're following what's best for our scholars and what's best for our students. So you will see things that are changing because it's evolving. Now, with that said, I also wanted to talk about the reporting and the accountability. So I will have you flip to page 20. So on page 20, this really talks about, okay, you have this blueprint, how are you implementing it? How are you making sure that you're meeting your KPIs, your objectives? What are you doing? How are you involving all the stakeholders and whatnot? So page 20 of the blueprint explains, what are you doing each month? We didn't just go a whole year and then the day before decide to change everything. It was, like I said earlier, it was an ongoing with our stakeholders. And so we have monthly reporting. Every month, the Cornerstone leads will provide an update to Dr. Robinson. The internal think tank team reviews the data and all the plan of actions. We look very intensely at those initiatives and those actions and strategies. So a large chunk of the work for Dr. Robinson's senior leadership team is reviewing this and looking at data and deciding on plans of action. So that's the monthly reporting. Then the 9-week updates. So the 9-week updates, the Cornerstone provides the updates, or the Cornerstones assess the KPI progress. So they're looking at the data. Again, this is ongoing. They're looking at the data ongoing, but this was more of the collection of it, documenting of it, and really digging into that data. And then the superintendent, Dr. Robinson, and the Cornerstone leads provide updates to the board. Now, looking at those two sections, it kind of leads right into the each year. So we really couldn't do that each year section without the two sections above it, because everything that's done for that year end, annual review, that public report, and updating these strategies and plans are all based on what's done every month, what's done every 9 weeks, all of our community involvement, all of Dr. Robinson's advisories that come, our students are part of a team that review it. So all of that is collected and brought to the table for our leadership team to make those adjustments. So I actually gave you both of these so you can put them on your refrigerator. Dr. Robinson is going to have some extra at the next board meeting too to pass out. We're going to try to get it on one page instead of two. But these are all of our upcoming meetings. And obviously, your involvement, our community, our stakeholders' involvement is key to this. They're essential to the success of this. And so we wanted to make sure everybody had a copy if you need any to pass out. Our strategic plan website has all of the meetings on there and the updates that are on there as well. As of the next board meeting, all of this will be available on the website. And let's see. I think that was all I had to tell you. I think that's all. I mean, does anybody? I was trying to think. I felt like I had one more, but that's about. Oh, Dr. Robinson. Yes, there was one other addition that wasn't on there. Thank you. So, and how long do I have? 2 minutes. Okay. You will notice one change. So I'm going to do two. One change. So Dr. Robinson's levers for success. This doesn't look it looks the same with the exception of you can see progress dots on that. And you know, Dr. Robinson always has an update in his superintendent's report. He'll continue to do those, and those sometimes focus on these levers or something that's in one of the cornerstones. But Dr. Robinson is right. There is also an addition on page 26, which is the organizational design for scholar success. And this was an illustration that Dr. Robinson and his team worked on to see how all of the stakeholders that we have impact the scholars and the work that's in Akron Public Schools. And I don't know if Dr. Caver or Dr. Robinson wanted to add any more into that. This is a visual, no, okay. This is a visual representation. And we've had this, but when you have a visual and you bring that to the table, even when you bring community members in or people that aren't super familiar with the work that we do, or maybe, you know, some of those, like maybe you are very strong in academic achievement, but not in one of the other areas, visuals are really helpful in getting that message across and really starting those conversations, maybe of things that people weren't aware of. So thank you, Dr. Robinson.
Thank you. So a little confused because we got to make sure that the board members have an opportunity to look at it and provide any feedback. So this is a draft.
Yes.
So please write draft on your book.
And
so, but we may need to, President Jackson, at the board meeting, if there are any questions that board members may have at the next one, so that we can make sure that we do the update and then provide the final book.
yes, and I will say that I did want to mention when I was taking you through the cornerstone pages, that yes, the board members were given, well, all of the board members, not just instructional policy, were given all these, but it just didn't look as pretty as this. And so we sent all of that to get feedback. And also in the sessions, I know some of you were at the sessions, and all of those, the team met and incorporated all of those in. Our scholars gave us some really good ones too, but all of those, all of your feedback, and also the feedback from all our stakeholders
Yeah, we
were
did
involved. So-
definitely got scholar voice, and they were very candid, and I like that.
Yeah, they were.
But their voice is in here.
Absolutely. And our
so-
families, yes. So this is, it's not the first time that you're seeing it, but it's the first time you're seeing it pretty like this. It really didn't look this pretty before. It was basically a black and white copy, all in lines. It wasn't that pretty at all. And I think the KPI was actually a link to that as well.
Yeah. And I just want to say thank you to Ms. Joanne for leading. This is the second year she's led the charge of this. You have no idea how much running back and forth or behind the scenes, trying to get central staff to turn in their stuff. I mean, it's a lot that goes on. And she, she'll come to me and I said, well, you're over it. You need to go tell them to turn it in on time so that we can make sure that we could have this. And so we'll kind of push it up a little bit more but the problem is that we don't get data until way after school starts. It's like October. So it puts us at a standstill because we can't update this until we get the actual data. So we're kind of working around it. But by the time we get it and do the updates, it's already November. And so some things are lagging, but that's the reason why we can't just like have this at the beginning of the year the way we would want to, because we're waiting on state data. And so, but, and then the backside is a lot of our, and we couldn't necessarily list every last one So we hope that no one looks at this and said, this is all we need a booklet for all the great things that we're accomplishing in the district. But these are just some of the major highlights. And so we asked senior staff to kind of give us ideas of what's glaring that we want to make sure that our public knows. So these are just some of our spotlights here.
Thank you. Ms. Hall?
Thank you so much. I think you guys did a wonderful job with this booklet. I love I'm just like a paper person. When the computer and all that stuff crashes, I'll have paper. But wonderful job, especially with the levers for success, to actually show that it's being worked on with the colors, in the boxes or in the circles. I think that's very, very commendable. Because we can talk about what we're doing till we're blue in the face, but when we actually have something that shows we are accomplishing our goals, that speaks volume. And I will tell you, 24 and 25 are my ultimate favorite pages. You hear that, Dr. Robinson? 24 and 25. Because this is like the blueprint of growing up. Like really, like the portrait of an elementary scholar. This social and emotional skills and just becoming yourself and learning yourself and knowing that, you're creative. I'm a problem solver. I am kind to myself. These are things that our kids and even adults have to say to themselves sometimes just to get out of bed and take that step to go to work or even to get your child up, because we never know what's happening in someone's life. So I love this. I'm like, can I blow this up and put it in my house? And then the portrait of a graduate. This is becoming an adult, identifying challenges, academic experiences and work experiences. This is life. So I think this is the blueprint of just life growing up. So thank you for whoever, the whole team sitting down and coming up with this, because this is showing our kids small that they can become something, and they're going to become one day a graduate. And then this graduate one day will become one of us sitting at this table, or being the doctors and lawyers or basketball players or football, whatever it is that they choose to be, a business person, mayor, president, that they can accomplish all these goals with these simple steps. So thank you. I'm excited about, I understand you got this whole book and it's beautiful, but I think I am most excited about 24 and 25 because it's real life. So thank you.
Can I please go on record to say that belongs to college career academies? So that's actually, we put this in our appendix just as we did the visual of the organizational design, because this does drive our work and our commitment as well. And you'll see a lot of this wording and language in the commitments in all of our cornerstones. So thank you. We did color it to match, but that all came
I just want to add, because you asked who created. This was a community-driven. This was hundreds of people that wrote the CCAA steering plan committees that came together in the beginning, that started with the portrait of a graduate. And then as we knew we wanted to go into elementary, they felt we needed that foundational portrait for elementary. So it was not a central office. It was parents. It was community members. It was business leaders. It was teachers. It was counselors, administrators, everybody who worked. This took a lot of work to get this language down, and it has been our North Star and the guiding work around everything that we do. We always reference this, and we do have giant posters. If you want one, I'll get them to you.
But it's saying that we're listening to the community also. It's not just about central office. It's not just about the schools and the teachers and the principals, or even just the kids. It's about the people in the community that are raising these kids, not just mom and dad, but it's grandma, it's aunt, it's uncle, it's friend, neighbor. So by listening to the community and putting this here speaks volume that we are doing the work, not just of APS, but the work of the city of Akron. So thank you.
If you go into some of the schools in the morning, especially when they're doing morning meetings and some of that, they're actually, the posters are throughout the buildings, but they're actually emphasizing these attributes and characteristics in terms of just questions that the teachers ask or just things that they say to some of the students that goes back to this. So when we did this the first year, we wanted to make sure that this was included in the work because the book is kind of based off of this.
Thanks again to the entire team for doing this, and I know we are over time for the committee. I did want to allow Dr. Caver to just wrap up this last item.
Thank you so much. So the committee can look at your updates, but we do have a teaching and learning update that I wanted to make sure I bring to your attention, and that is that we have the STEM Expo happening. It's the 69th annual STEM Expo on January 25th. We would love for you all to come out and be there. And then also we're getting started. We're doing the Project Soapbox Take a Stand showcase, and it is also happening. I'm sorry, the STEM Expo is at Ellett, and then the Soapbox is at Garfield on the same day. So Saturday, January 25th, we have some activities. So I want to make sure that you all know that information. And thank you so much for a great meeting today.
Thank you, Dr. Caver. If all minds are clear, we will be adjourned at this time, 5:34. Thank you.